Explosions rocked 2 Russian air bases, killing several people just hours before Ukraine accused Russia of launching a massive missile attack.
A price cap on Russian crude oil comes into force today, agreed by the EU, G7 and Australia to try and limit Moscow's export earnings.
Activists brush off claims that Iran's morality police is disbanding and insist there will be no change to the conservative dress code for women.
Several people have been killed in explosions at 2 Russian military airfields, according to reports. The origin of the blast is still unknown. Both areas are located hundreds of kilometers from the Ukrainian border. One explosion happened near the city of Ryazan, southeast of Moscow. The other occurred at an airfield in Saratov.
Of course, the president receives information from all relevant divisions about what is happening.
On Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin personally inspected the newly reconstructed Crimean Bridge, which was damaged in a car bomb attack back in October. It's a symbolic bridge connecting Russia to the peninsula of Crimea, annexed by Moscow back in 2014. Russia blamed the act on Ukrainian military intelligence and responded with several waves of strikes on the country's energy infrastructure. Ukrainian officials have not directly claimed responsibility for the blast.
Ukrainian officials have indicated that Ukrainian forces plan to continue offensive operations over the coming winter to capitalize on recent battlefield successes and prevent Russian forces from regaining the battlefield initiative. The Institute for the Study of War states that Ukraine's ability to maintain the military initiative and continue the momentum of its current operational successes depends on Ukrainian forces continuing to conduct successive operations through the winter 2022-2023. Now, the think tank says that Russia lost the initiative in summer after its offensive in Donbas culminated. Ukrainian forces gained and have retained the initiative since August 2022 and have been conducting a series of successful successive operations since then, liberating most of Kharkiv region in September, Kherson city in November, and is currently setting conditions for more Ukrainian pushes elsewhere this winter. Now, this could be the northeast of Ukraine, around the Svatove and Crimean area, where Ukrainian forces continue their counteroffensive operations. And some of the most fierce fighting is in the east of Ukraine, specifically that's around Bakhmut. Russian operations are continuing to expand manpower, ammunition and other military assets while making limited tactical gains that have limited operational utility, as the Institute for the Study of War has previously assessed. The UK Defence Ministry adds that Russia has prioritized Bakhmut as its main offensive effort since early August. However, the campaign has been disproportionately costly relative to these possible gains. There is a realistic possibility that Bakhmut's capture has become primarily a symbolic political objective for Russia. The capture of the town of Bakhmut would have limited operational value, although it would potentially allow Russia to threaten the larger urban areas of Kramatorsk and Sloviansk.
The price cap on Russian crude oil agreed by Australia, the EU and G7 nations comes into effect today, with a cap on refined petroleum products due in February next year. The deal sets the oil price per barrel at a maximum of $60 or roughly 57 euros. But Ukraine had asked for a lower cap of $30 per barrel, arguing that any higher won't have an impact on Russia's economy. Moscow, meanwhile, has said it will continue to sell its oil at market price. Most oil tankers are insured by institutions in G7 countries, and unless the vessels accept the price cap, they won't be able to get coverage. Therefore, even countries that haven't agreed to the ceiling could be forced to enforce it, which could in turn limit Russia's energy export earnings. But, according to the Financial Times newspaper, Moscow has prepared a fleet of tankers bought from Venezuela and Iran to try and circumvent the cap.
Campaigners backing Iran's protest movement dismissed a claim over the weekend the Islamic Republic is disbanding its notorious morality police. There have also been calls on social media for a 3-day strike, more than 2 months after the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini. Human rights defender Massa Al-Mardani says articles within the Islamic Penal Code remain and insists nothing will change.
It has been some weeks that a lot of folks in Iran have, not seen the morality police around. But is this a positive change? No, there has been an influx of other security forces on the ground. And these security forces have been documented to shoot, kill, beat, arrest protesters and take them into custody, inflict torture without any due process or any proper criminal charges against protesters. It's going to be a massive distraction because anyone who knows Iran knows that the morality police is not the problem.
In a surprise move, Attorney General Mohammad Jafar Montazeri announced the abolition of the morality police. A much-feared force created to, quote, spread the culture of decency and the hijab. Some suggest the administration might finally be bowing to protesters, while the local media is sceptical.
It's been 6 years since the deadly 2016 Brussels attacks, which claimed the lives of 32 people and injured over 300. Now, 10 defendants are set to stand trial, including Salah Abdeslam, one of the perpetrators of the Paris attacks 1 year prior. The attacks are considered the worst to have occurred in Belgium during peacetime. The airport and the metro system were targeted by bombers during rush hour. The attackers detonated 2 explosive devices at the airport departure halls and 1 at the metro station. The Mailbeek station in central Brussels near the EU headquarters was devastated by the bombing. As it is the largest criminal trial in Belgian history, proceedings are expected to last until June, with hundreds of witnesses and victims set to testify. Victims and their families hope justice will be served at this trial.
Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown. Drivers of the city's tricycle taxis lining up in front of a petrol station in the vain hope of being able to buy some fuel. After several months of severe shortages, the queues grow longer and the price steeper.
If I come at the gas station and there is no gas, I will go to the black market, the Jebu, where people sell it in bottles. They'll sell it in the black market for 30 leones for 1 litre.
When we came, we were expecting to buy petrol at 21,000 leone. If I want to buy 5 litres, it will cost me 105,000. I will ride with this for the rest of the day, and I will have to pay my boss 80,000 to rent it. I also have to eat and maintain the bike, change the oil, so I have to do all of these things. But if we have this fuel crisis, it affects us. And now we can't buy directly from the petrol station. We buy at the black market for 30,000 leones for a litre.
In March, the government fixed the official price of fuel at 21,000 leones, almost double that of last year. And it's not only motorists and the economy. In August, at least 25 people died in Freetown when protests against fuel and food prices turned violent. As concern over climate change and the need for clean energy sees an increasing number of people switch to electric cars, these vehicles are fast gaining a larger market share. But some experts are asking how green the batteries that run them really are. They're raising questions about the environmental impact of lithium mining, respect for human rights and alleged child labour in cobalt mines, the high energy costs of production and a recyclability rate of barely 10%.
Recycling of materials of batteries at this moment is not that interesting for recyclers, nor for manufacturers, because it's much cheaper to extract virgin materials than to recycle them.
A Spanish company is trying to give used car batteries a second life. As part of the EU project Stardust, it's reconditioning them to store solar energy, adding at least 10 years to their life.
Aging of our batteries have been a lot better than expected. Okay, we expected the batteries to degrade, to age, to lose capacity faster, and we've seen that no, automotive batteries are lasting more than we expected. That proves that our business case makes sense, that automotive second life batteries make sense.
European Union legislation on sustainable practices in battery recycling is largely outdated, but discussions are currently underway on proposed legislation which could regulate the production chain from extraction to the recycling and reuse processes.